He's now second in Iowa in the polls. He is the governor of the great state of Wisconsin. Governor Scott Walker is back with us. Sir, how are you? Welcome back.
Hey, Sean, I'm doing exceptionally well. Thanks for having me on.
Well, look, I read a comment you made that you want to talk about Hillary, not Trump. I understand that, but what do you make of that Trump phenomenon, and do you think it lasts? It's 5.5 months till we first vote in Iowa.
Well, I think it's real in the sense that not just him, but you look at a number of the candidates who've gone up in the polls, they're people who are not in office. And I think the lesson for me, certainly, and for anybody else who's wise, is to realize that Americans, particularly Republican voters, are frustrated and upset in large part at Washington because even Republicans there, they said, we got a House, we need a Senate. They have a Senate now. They're not repealing. They haven't done a bill to repeal Obamacare. It hasn't passed through, put on the president's desk. The Iran deal's appearing to move forward. Dodd-Frank is there. I think there's a real, genuine frustration, and people are saying, I want to express that in people, picking people, at least in the polls early on, who are as far removed as possible from that. My response is, for me, is to make the case just as I did in 2010 when I didn't just win the election. I took on not only the Democrats and unions, I took on my own party establishment. I took on the lifers in our state Senate who didn't want to do the kind of reforms that we did, and make the case that if you want someone who's going to fight and win, not just win elections, but win and actually get things done without compromising conservative principles, I'm the guy who get it done.
You see, I got to agree with you. I think your analysis is dead on accurate, Governor, and that is that I think there is a distinction between Republican or conservative governors like yourself and the success that you've had versus some of the leadership in Washington. Look, I got to be honest. I am very frustrated with Washington Republicans. They said they'd repeal and replace Obamacare. They have a constitutional tool at their disposal, which is the power of the purse. They don't use it. They promised us before the 2014 elections that they're going to stop the president's illegal, unconstitutional executive amnesty, and they end up funding it. So there's real palpable frustration on the part of conservatives. But yet I look at somebody like yourself or the great story of Rick Perry or Rick Scott in Florida or John Kasich, maybe with the exception of Medicaid and the Obamacare that he took to his state. You guys have great success stories because you have fought and applied conservative principles. So I think there is a distinction.
Yeah, we fought and we won. In my case, I didn't just win 3 elections in 4 years in the blue state. We actually got things done. And the example you give of the president, who, remember, said 22 times he couldn't do what he ultimately did last November on illegal immigration. He said he was not the emperor, he was the president, and he still did it. And if it wasn't for me and 24 other governors who went to court to stop him, he'd have full reign to be able to do that. It's only because the governors stood up and took action, not the members of the Congress or the Senate who did it. And again, don't get me wrong, there are plenty of good people there. But I think there is a genuine frustration. And so my case, and it's steady as you go, it doesn't always be done at once, is I hear what people are saying. I understand. I share that frustration myself. And the answer to that is to pick, hopefully, to look around and say, who's the person who has been in a circumstance like this before, who got elected, who took on not only the challenges that the left and the unions had, but even took on those in my own party, who didn't really want to move away from the status quo. We did that. We did it early on. We got things done, and our state's better. And to me, that's the bit of optimism.
Do you remember, Governor?
People want to be optimistic, and we can show we can get things done.
You remember in 2013 when Senator Ted Cruz had his filibuster? Remember, all those Republicans in the Senate had all run on the platform that they would repeal and replace Obamacare. He just wanted to use the power of the purse to do so. And there was fear and trepidation among Republicans that they would get blamed for a government shutdown. They said they agree in principle on what the goal is. They just disagree with the tactics. Well, the end result is for 5 years now, it's been the law and there's not a consensus alternative to Obamacare. In that sense, and they also predicted 2014 would be a disaster because of Ted Cruz. Was Ted Cruz right? Is that what the electorate, like people like me, conservatives like me, are mad at?
Well, I think there is that sense. And you look down the line, look at Planned Parenthood. But again, these are all great examples of not only what people are upset about. It's right and legitimate to be upset. What I would do is take it the next step, though, and say, okay, let's not just be angry. Let's figure out a way to fix this. And I would argue on every one of those issues. Planned Parenthood would be a good example. I defunded Planned Parenthood more than 4 years ago in a blue state, for goodness sakes. If we can do it there is no excuse why they can't do in Washington, why they can't stop the
Well, you did more than that,
Act,
though.
why they can't defund Planned Parenthood, or why they can't, get rid of Obamacare. All these things are things, the sort of things that we, and not just me, but other common sense conservative governors have done. If we can do it, there's no reason why Washington can't do it.
I'd argue you actually did more. And that is, when you said people that get an abortion have to have an ultrasound ahead of time. Now, it's interesting. The Planned Parenthood videos showed that they used ultrasound so they could, quote, crush this part of the baby's body and not that part, so they could preserve the lungs and the hearts and the livers. But you actually required that. That was another bill that you fought for, right?
Well, that's exactly right. And Planned Parenthood and others, Emily's List attacked us for us. When all we're saying is, hey, if they believe in choice, how about an informed choice? It's just the hypocrisy out there. That's why my argument is I hear what people are saying loud and clear. I share that sense. My wife and I have been just as frustrated as many other Americans are. But if you want to get something done and you really want to fix that, our plan, our base is we can do it. We can take this just like we took things and got things done immediately, right? We didn't even wait 100 days. We got it done in the first month and a half. We passed some of the most aggressive, common sense conservative reforms in the country in a state that hadn't gone Republican for president since 1984. It wasn't too late for Wisconsin. It's not too late for America. I am an optimist. I know with the right leadership, we can and we will turn this country around, but we got to do it in a way that not only gets results, it does it without compromising our principles.
I actually worry whether or not time has slipped away. I think the time for half measures is long past. I think if we're really going to balance a budget and save Social Security and get 93 million Americans back in the labor force and 50 million out of poverty, we got a lot of work to do. And I think I don't know if the country has been indoctrinated into a mindset where they don't have the appetite to eat their spinach and their broccoli and their asparagus and their salad because they're used to government officials telling them they can have everything they want and don't worry, somebody else will pay for it.
Well, and they're used to people in the media telling them,
not me.
Not only is that the right thing to do, but many in the media, obviously not you, but others in the media telling them, not only is that the right thing to do, that anyone who disagrees with that is somehow being negative and pessimistic. No, we are the optimists. We know, we believe in the American spirit. We understand, even when it comes to welfare and immigration, we're told that, no, you've got to change the laws because there aren't enough people to do the work. No, we've got to change the system. There are able-bodied adults. I see it in my state. I see it across America. I've done it in my state where I've said, you want to get assistance? We'll only do it if you're able to work. We'll only do it if you're enrolled in one of our job training programs. If you can pass a drug test, because we want to get people back to work out there. We know that there are people capable of working. We know there are people that we can grow this country with. But we've got to get off the back of government. We've got to get government out of the way so people can get back to work. The
last couple of times I interviewed Donald Trump, he's been critical of the economy in Wisconsin. I know I don't want to get involved in the tit for tat because I figure you candidates can all defend yourselves here. But the last time I had interviewed you, you talked about having a surplus. He's disputing that. Are you now in a surplus situation in Wisconsin?
We've had a balanced budget every year I've been in office. I mean, the irony is he's literally using the talking points Democrats have tried to use over the past 4.5 years. The reason why I've won 3 times is because those talking points are not accurate. We fixed a $3.6 billion budget deficit. We have a balanced budget. We did it while cutting taxes by $2 billion. We went from over 8% unemployment down to 4.6% unemployment. Our schools have now the second highest ACT scores in the country on every major one of these talking points. I mean, I'm one of only 2 states in the country with a fully funded pension system. My bonding levels are the lowest in 20 years. My rainy day fund's 165 times bigger than we took office. We took on the very things you talked about, eating our spinach, eating the broccoli, doing the right thing. We did it. And our state is that much better off because of it. If we could do it in Wisconsin, I have no doubt. If we can do it in a blue state, there's no doubt we can do it for America.
Let me ask you about these Hillary emails and the confiscation of her server by the FBI and the fact that she deleted and chose to delete, some 32,000 and then wipe the server totally clean, or at least so she believes. And the fact that the inspector generals looked at only 40, a small sample, and 10% of them, 4 of them, were found to have classified information on it. 2 of those had highly classified information on it. What are your thoughts on what's going on with her?
This is outrageous. I mean, this is just absolutely outrageous. It's either illegal or it's incompetence, and it may be a bit of both. I mean, think about it. Her defense, her defenders are claiming she didn't know. If she didn't know, the Secretary of the State now appears, at least in 2 instances, to not only have highly classified, potentially top secret information, at least according to them, not to a partisan, not to a candidate, but to the Inspector General's office. The Intelligence Committee's Inspector General is now saying top secret information, at least 2 of those instances. If she did not know, she is incompetent in her role as Secretary of State at the time, which means she would be incompetent.
Well, I think,
as President of the United States. If she did know, it is clearly illegal for her to knowingly.
She admits, actually, though, when she said, and I actually have the tape of it, Governor, when she said that she did not have classified information, she didn't send nor receive it. She also said, "I know what the law is." She was very frank about it. I can play the tape for you if you like. Let me play it for you.
Were you ever specifically briefed on the security implications of using your own email server and using your personal address to email with the president?
I did not email any classified material to anyone on my email. There is no classified material. So I'm certainly well aware of the classification requirements and did not send classified material.
I'm certainly aware of the classification requirements, so ignorance of the law doesn't apply here, does it?
Exactly. That is a smoking gun, because if she claims now that she didn't know, she explicitly said there, she said similar things in the past, that she knows. She was kind of condescending about it, saying, "Of course I know what top secret information is." Well, she's now trying to claim that she didn't know at the time. At best, it is incompetence alone that should rule her out from being Commander-in-Chief of the United States. I think more realistically, day in, day out, it looks like it's a lot closer to illegal, and I think that clearly should disqualify her from being President of the United States.
But the amazing thing is that we now have an Attorney General that, when she was testifying before the Senate for a confirmation, admitted that the rule of law doesn't apply as it relates to immigration, and she signed off on the president's illegal, unconstitutional executive amnesty, and Republicans ended up voting for her anyway. So now I don't have any faith, hope, or confidence that Loretta Lynch and this Justice Department will do their job, whereas General Petraeus, he faced a massive penalty and potential jail time, and what he did is far less significant.
A fraction of what we're talking about with Hillary Clinton. This is just a prime example, as I've said before. Hillary Clinton could be the deceiver-in-chief, but Americans cannot trust her to be the commander-in-chief. And I would love to go head-to-head against her on this or any other issue. I mean, my goodness, the other day, she's now decided to try and draw attention to attack me and 1 or 2 of the others. I'd love to have this debate anywhere, anytime in America, because she's wrong on this. Everywhere in the world she's touched, this Secretary of State is worse off today than it was before she took office. She attacked me the other day on higher education, overlooking the fact that I, for the first time ever, froze tuition in my state 4 years in a row for in-state tuition for our college students, while she was out there charging $225,000 or more per speech on college campuses. The audacity of what she says is just why she continues to fall in the polls.
How did you like the first debate? Did you enjoy being up there?
Yeah, it was interesting. I think one of the most enjoyable times was I love Dr. Ben Carson, and I so enjoyed when he was asked the question about race, and he talked about being a brain surgeon. I think that was one of the moments where there was probably one of the most extended cutaways, because I was nodding and agreeing with him. But it's great. You got a great field out there, a tremendous field. As Republicans, we should be proud of the quality of the candidates out there, which is why I was proud to be on that stage.
People forget, Governor. It's funny because if I do an interview with anybody, they say, "Well, what about my guy?" And I'm like, we have 5.5 months left before anyone votes in Iowa. We got plenty of time.
We do indeed. And plenty of time that we should be making the case as to who of us is best equipped to take on Hillary Clinton and who's going to actually shake things up, even amongst Republicans in Washington, and doing it without backing away from principle. One of my favorite tweets early on this year was somebody in Iowa who said, "I like Scott Walker because he wins without caving." And that would be my request to the American people, is if you want someone who's going to win without caving, I'm your guy.
All right, Governor. Great to talk to you again. We'll see you out there on the campaign trail. Don't eat too many fried pickles, Oreos, or Twinkies out there. All right, Governor Scott Walker.